Davante.
Kelvin.
I'm back.
Don't care.
Any advice for being on a new team? I know that switch must have been hard on you. Hey, you want to watch some fantasy football, friends?
I thought you'd never ask.
What's up, fantasy football friends? My name is Carter McCracken.
My name is Max Lampkin.
And today we are going to give you the top 48 fantasy wide receivers of the 2023 NFL football season.
Sir, let's jump right into it. Dedication to the cause, ladies and gentlemen. 48
wide receivers for you. That's 4 rounds of wide receivers. Yep. First, I want to start off with a little bit of news, if I can find it right here. D'Onta Foreman gets cut. This is big for Roschon Johnson. He's set for the backup role.
Boost Khalil Herbert, too.
Yes, Khalil Herbert now has more security as the top guy there.
Yep.
I think that this has big implications down the line. We see rookie running backs get burned later on in the season. So definitely keep your lookout for Roschon Johnson. He should be climbing up your rankings. And as you said, Khalil Herbert as well. Josh Jacobs yet to sign with the Raiders. Dolphins inquire about him. They say he's not for sale. They're not interested, but I'd keep your eyes out on that. Something we will keep you updated on. You never know what happens. Sometimes you just keep knocking and they give in. Josh Jacobs doesn't seem to give any. So we'll see how that works out. Ty Chandler of the Minnesota Vikings is set to take the RB2 role behind Alexander Mattison. I think this is big. They have that defined role. Alexander Mattison has yet to prove himself as a running back one workhorse guy on a day-to-day basis, week-to-week basis. So Ty Chandler could take some snaps. We'll see how that works out. 6'10", 210 pounds.
10 pounds.
6'10". 6 foot, 210 pounds. He's a beast physically, so we'll see how that works out. Pretty exciting in that department. Terry McLaurin, turf toe, could miss week 1. Definitely keep your eyes out on that.
Yep.
Take a little bit more caution when drafting Terry McLaurin. Right. Because of those beginning weeks.
And a little less when drafting Jahan Dotson, which we will get to.
Yes, we will be talking about him today. Lastly, Trey Lance to the Cowboys. I don't foresee this having much fantasy implications, but you never know.
Never know.
How Dak ends up health-wise. I think
true.
It's actually good for Dak. I think he needs a little bit of pressure. Right. He's not an extremely efficient quarterback, so with this news behind him, I think it gives him a little bit of extra motivation. Something I'd like to see in Dak because he's someone right now in that Cowboys offense I'm not very high on. So very interesting. I don't think it has much fantasy implications right now, but we'll see how it plays out down the line.
When you texted me that, it was like the most random thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, guys. It's just news. We're just giving it to you. But all right, you ready to start with number 1?
Yep, let's do it.
I think it's it wasn't number 1 on your board, but in most cases you can find this guy number 1. I feel like it's like that for every position. But at wide receiver number 1, we got Justin Jefferson. Finishes number 1 last year. He is the overall number 1 fantasy pick this year on average. A guy that is gonna get crazy amounts of targets. Not much to question there in terms of production. It's just a matter of fact of, is he gonna repeat wide receiver 1, which we don't always see. Jefferson is one guy that I have no doubt in my mind that he can do it. He's always going to push 2,000 yards, which is, primed for a wide receiver 1 finish. So if he can do it again, he has great metrics across the board. Doesn't drop many balls. He's going to get targets wherever he is on the field, whether it's the red zone or, the first snap of the drive. So Justin Jefferson is about as good as it gets. He's still 24 years old. He's just a beast.
Wide receiver 1 last year, over 1,800 yards, 128 receptions, 8 touchdowns. You like to see all that. You would like to see a couple more touchdowns given that he gets so much volume and so many yards, but that could definitely see an increase if he's able to maintain that volume. Obviously, someone that's going to return your value as long as he stays healthy. So, yeah, Justin Jefferson there, primed for another top finish.
Yeah.
Great offense.
I would have no if I'm picking number one, I have no second guess in my mind, really. Justin Jefferson's my guy.
Yeah, and certainly someone you could take without a hesitation.
Number 2. So we got a tie at 2 already, guys, starting with the ties. So we got Kupp and Jamar. I'll let you talk about Kupp. I know that's your guy.
Yeah, so Cooper Kupp, let me just take you back in time for a little bit. We're going to go back a year or 2 years, however you want to put it, 2021. This guy ends as the highest scoring fantasy player overall, highest scoring fantasy player overall.
Triple crown.
191 targets, 22 more than Davante Adams at 2, 145 receptions, 22 more than Adams at 2, 1947 yards, 331 more than Jefferson at 2, and 16 touchdowns, 2 more than Mike Evans at 2. Over 11 games in 2022, 98 targets, 75 receptions, 812 yards, 6 touchdowns. Guys, he is someone that gets volume with Matthew Stafford. He loves throwing to him.
Yeah.
If they're both healthy, he will see targets. Volume is king. He can find the end zone. He's done it before. A little bit to be worried about as he's 30 years old, coming back from the hamstring injury.
Right.
I will not pass up on Cooper Kupp no matter what position I'm in or no matter what my pre-draft plans are if he is there on the board. This guy is nuts.
I mean,
his stats speak for himself.
Dude, yeah, I'm looking at it. 3rd in snap share. He's on the field for 95% of snaps, guys. Like, if you're getting volume and you're out there on the field, like he's gonna produce. His target share was 31%, so he's getting close to a third of the balls that Stafford's throwing are going to Cooper Kupp. So, I mean, I have nothing more to add, dude. He's a beast when he's on the field. We know that, like you said, the only thing to worry about, keep an eye on, is that hamstring. Other than that, dude, Kupp's a beast. I mean, it's like Stafford has blinders sometimes and just targets him, and he always seems to be open. So I can't blame the guy. But Kupp is a good pick right now. ADP at 7. I know you're comfortable taking him higher than that.
Yeah.
So tied with him, we got Jamar Chase. Chase is a guy who is very electric. Dealt with a little bit of injury last year, but when he was playing, he was great. I mean, finished 4th in touchdowns with 9, over 1,000 yards still, 134 targets. Outpaced Higgins when he was in the lineup. So he's obviously the alpha in that offense, no question about it. A guy that I just think he's that elite type of guy, and I think we're all expecting that legit explosion because he had over 1,400 yards his rookie season. So we've seen it. If he can do that his rookie season, I can imagine what he's primed to do this year. So Jamar is a guy I'm very excited about. He's good at all levels of the field. They're going to get him the ball. The only thing I would say is Burrow's health. You got to keep an eye on that. Obviously, still draft Jamar high. I don't think there's any question about that. But throughout the season, if Burrow's hurt, Jamar is going to go down in terms of production. So that's the only thing I would keep an eye on.
Yeah, Jamar Chase, wide receiver 1 over the last 6 games, 6 touchdowns over that span, 9 in the whole season. Burrow at quarterback, yeah, keep your eyes out for that. That's definitely something to monitor. I think that he's going to be Burrow's favorite target throughout the year. Last year, he really solidified his spot as the alpha in that offense. Yeah. Always has been, but you could really see it going down the stretch. And someone that I would love to take, someone I personally have over Justin Jefferson, but they're pretty interchangeable. Obviously, right now we got Jefferson at 1, and I really see them as interchangeable in a sense. A lot of times you see them as 1 and 2 off the board. So he is great there at tied for 2.
So last thing I'll put for Jamar, just to throw you some stats out there for his dominance, T. Higgins only had an 18% target share, which was good for 41st in the league. T. Higgins is just a very productive receiver when he does get the ball. But Chase was 29%. So that was good for 6th in the league. So he's just a beast when he's on the field, demands the ball. They're going to scheme him up. Jamar Chase, guys, no question about the talent. And then I think our next guy here, Tyreek Hill at 4. These top 4 guys are interchangeable to me. All of them have easily you can see the potential for them finishing as the overall wide receiver 1, all going within the top 6-7 picks according to their ADP. I mean, Tyreek is a guy at 2 in our main draft that I'm considering drafting. He's so explosive, guys. I mean, he started out on pace for 2,000 yards, which is, the mark that every receiver desires to hit at some point. But Tyreek finished with 1,700 yards, 119 receptions, and 7 touchdowns. And we saw that he was QB proof last year. So, I mean, even if Tua goes down, Tyreek's still going to put up big games. Whenever he gets the ball in his hand, it's like, what is he going to do now? He led the league in true catch rate, guys. So what that stat is it's just receptions divided by the catchable targets that he received. So 158%. So the guy was catching everything that came to him. He's just, 48% contested catch rate, contested catch rate. For a small guy, that's great. Tyreek's he's just an exciting player. I mean, we all love to you can just sit down and watch him all day.
Yeah. When he throws up that peace sign, it's game over.
Yeah.
Unless they're coming back with the peace sign in the AFC Championship.
So, yeah.
Tyreek Hill, I've been a Chargers fan for a while. He ruined a lot of my weekends.
Last year, dude, that play was crazy.
I mean, last year, the year before that, he's ruined a lot of my weekends. So, Tyreek Hill is someone I would love to have on my team.
Yeah.
Someone fun to watch. As I will always say, I like to have guys I like to watch. Explosive, can do it from all angles. Great guy.
So the thing that interests me about Tyreek is that obviously all these guys have a floor, but Tyreek's floor seems to be like we saw Jefferson put up some stinkers at the end of the season. Jamar seems to always put up a game of 5 points or something. I mean, Kupp was insane last year before he got hurt. He was on another level. He led everyone before he got injured. But Tyreek is a guy that the boom potential is just off the charts. So, yeah. I love Tyreek this year. I have him personally as my wide receiver 2. I think he could finish as 1 easily.
Yeah. 3rd in targets, 2nd in receptions, 2nd in yards. Explosive offense when they're hitting.
Right. So number 5, this kind of represents a tier break for us. Those first 4 guys are absolutely elite. And these next guys are great. They're just in that second tier. And we have a 4-way tie for 5th. So our rankings 5 through 8 were completely flipped, but we'll just give them to you all together. So at 5th, we have Amon-Ra. So I'm excited for him because I think both of us are in agreement that Lions offense is going to take the next step. Amon-Ra is the clear-cut number 1, which makes him very enticing, I think. He's ranked 6th in consensus. We have him at, tied for 5th, so about the same. I just think he's a guy his targets are going to be off the chart. Would like to see him get a little more yards per catch, but he's a target hog, so volume is king. He was 5th in receptions last year in 146 targets, 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. The guy runs all type of routes. He's just dominant in that offense. So I'm really looking for him to take that next step. I think this guy could be a real steal with where he's getting drafted. His ADP apparently is 19. I think we're going to expect to see him go at the turn, 14, 15 at the latest. Yeah. But Amon-Ra, I can see him finishing definitely at 5, if not. If he gets 200 more yards, 10 more catches, something like that, and ups to 8 or 9 touchdowns, dude, you're looking at a great finish. So Amon-Ra,
as you said, 146 targets last year. That was good for 28% of the team targets. Something you love to see, the alpha receiver there. 21 red zone targets, another thing you like to see, which only amounted to 4 touchdowns, I believe. That number could definitely increase. Yeah. So Amon-Ra is great there in that Lions offense. Missed a game last year, so
there's more.
We would have seen it even better
right there.
Yeah. So who we got next?
Next guy is Stefon Diggs. So this is a guy I moved up in my personal rankings. Had him at 7. I think I moved him up to 6, which obviously isn't a big jump, but I think we're gonna see less running out of Josh Allen, and that's gonna obviously mean more work for the running backs. So James Cook, Damian Harris, that sort of thing. But I also think that are gonna put him in more direct passing situations versus RPOs, option deals. So I think Diggs, his numbers could even go up from what we saw last year. He was third in receptions, 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns. Kind of trailed off at the end though, which I don't know if that was a production of just fatigue in that overall offense. We saw a lot of frustration there, which could kind of hurt Diggs owners this year. But personally, I'm really not concerned about that. I just think it's an elite receiver wants the ball. He wants the ball in his hands when the game matters. You got to respect that. You got to understand that. But he's just great. He's efficient. In yards per route run, he was third, which is a metric that a lot of the analytics nerds like. Still love you guys. You're nerds. But 2.86 yards per route run. That's great. That's what you want to see. He gets targets, and he's a guy like Jefferson. He gets targets at all levels of the field. He's a threat whenever he has the ball in his hands. He can go deep. He can beat you anywhere.
Yeah, someone that's been consistent for the last 3 years. Wide receiver 5 last year. Yep. As you said, has Josh Allen. That's always a plus. 6 in air yards, so he's getting those downfield targets. You see it almost every week. He's got a 30-yard touchdown, It seems like. So Stefon Diggs there is great. I like the Bills' offense. It's high-powered. Always is.
Right.
So
and he's one of those guys that's obviously the clear-cut one in that offense.
Yeah.
Gabe Davis is the next guy in that offense. So Diggs is going to get his.
Right. So someone you can definitely feel confident taking around the turn in the first round.
He's a guy that if you get him as your wide receiver 1 and then you're able to get like Tony Pollard or something, dude, that's a great first 2 rounds right there.
That's a great balanced start. Yeah.
Right. So next, tied for 5th also, we got A.J. Brown for Philadelphia, who I really like. I believe he finished as wide receiver 4 last year. I had Jalen Hurts, so I was watching a lot of Philly games. He averaged an insane amount averaged an insane amount of yards per catch. It's just crazy how efficient this guy is, because I remember I had him 17 yards a catch last year, guys. So when he's getting the ball, like, he's going to produce on his receptions, whether it's touchdowns or just pure yardage. And he still had 146 targets last year, 1,500 yards, basically 11 touchdowns. The guy was getting 5 yards of cushion on the snap. So that means the corner was at least 5 yards off of him per snap on an average basis. So corners are scared of him downfield. He gets those slants all the time. Just a great physical receiver. But like I was saying, on the Titans, it was like, there's no way he can keep up this efficiency we're seeing. And then he comes to Philly and just does it again. So he's a guy that, I don't know. I talk to people and they seem to be a little down on him, but he's an elite guy to me. No doubt about it.
Yeah, 11 touchdowns last year on a run-heavy offense, which is actually really impressive considering the amount of touchdowns that Jalen Hurts got with his feet that they were able to produce with the run game. 7th with 12 end zone targets.
Yeah, that's big considering how they run the ball in the red zone.
We think Jalen Hurts could still improve as a passer and just in a great overall offense. Offense is bound to score more touchdowns this year. Actually have less receptions last year than DaVonta Smith, which is pretty interesting, but still more productive with those touches. So, absolute nightmare for most defenders. Absolute nightmare for whoever goes up against him in fantasy that week.
Dude.
I think he's just going to be a great option and someone I'm not scared to take.
I'd love to have him. These guys, the next guy we'll be talking about is Garrett Wilson, but these 4 guys are, like we said, they're interchangeable to us.
Yeah.
Guys all around the turn that we would love to have. Number 1 on their offense, explosive offenses, just great picks. But getting into Garrett Wilson, I'll let you take this.
Yeah, so Garrett Wilson, I absolutely love Garrett Wilson this year.
Loves Rodgers too, guys.
Yeah, he's got Rodgers, but he's coming into his second year as a wide receiver. A lot of times we just see those guys go off. Yeah. Even recently it's been rookies, but I think that second year wide receiver is even another step that a lot can take. 147 with only 87 receptions, 147 targets and 87 receptions. Zach Wilson was just throwing him ducks. And I think with a guy like Rodgers, he's going to get accurate passes. He's going to get open, and he's going to get a lot of points for you. Someone that I'm personally considering taking if Cooper Kupp and CMC are both gone at the 5th spot, yes, it's a little bit of an extension, but I think that this guy's upside is wide receiver 1. If he can live up to his potential, if Rodgers plays like we knows he can, and how he has with people like Jordy Nelson, with people with Davante Adams, he's going to get a bunch of touchdowns for you. He's going to get a bunch of targets. And obviously, he's very productive with those targets and receptions. Garrett Wilson is someone I love. New York Jets is a new team. They're exciting. It's going to be a really fun team to watch this year. And Garrett Wilson is happily going to be a part of my team if possible.
Right. I mean, I think it's really interesting what you said because we always look for that sophomore leap at receiver. You know, when we see a guy come in as a rookie, do well, you're looking for that leap. And what better way to do it than get Aaron Rodgers coming in as your quarterback? You know, I mean,
absolutely.
I think he's going to have a very efficient season. He saw 11 end zone targets last year, which was good for 11th. Broke the two yards per route run mark, which is what we look for. But yeah, dude, I remember watching the Cleveland Browns game last year. I think it was week 3 when the Jets came back. Wilson scored like 2 big touchdowns. Dude, I was like, okay, you know, this kid's legit. Like, I agree with you. I think he really does have the potential to finish as overall wide receiver 1. I think he's going to be on a far more efficient offense, like we've stated. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited for him. And if he's his ADP is 21 again. I think in drafts like ours, he's going to go above that. There's no way he falls to the bottom of the second. He's going to be, I mean, yeah, you're going to take him if he's there. And you're picking before 21.
If Kupp is gone, if CMC is gone, I'm heavily considering Garrett Wilson at the 5 spot.
If he's there in the second round, I know you're snatching him up.
He won't be there.
Wilson, guys, is someone that we're very high on. Like him where he's ranked, obviously. If you can get your hands on him, he's a great balance, I think, if you're a guy that goes running back in the first round, or even if you just want 2 stud receivers.
Yeah.
So number 9, we have Ceedee Lamb. So I like Ceedee this year. I just don't think he has necessarily the potential for. Personally, I would put a tier break right here. I think Ceedee, he's very talented. I loved him coming out of Oklahoma. He's very talented. Obviously, the alpha in that offense. He can do everything on the football field. It's just, I don't know how to put it. I think with the addition of Brandin Cooks, and then you still have Michael Gallup, who will be a year removed from his ACL injury. I think that, I mean, he had 156 targets last year. That's 4th in the league. I think we see that go down slightly. I still think he's a highly productive receiver. He's great at getting open. I have no problem with drafting him in the top 2nd round. I really don't. I just don't think his upside is as high as the guys we stated before.
Right.
His floor is still there. He's a great pick. He's someone I would have no problem with as being my wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I don't think that you look at him and say he's not a wide receiver 1. He clearly is. Obviously, I don't think that upside's there. I'm really low on the Cowboys this year. And the connection between him and Dak at times just seemed way off. It didn't seem right.
I remember that Packers game when he threw that pick. And yeah, total disconnect.
Yeah, it just didn't seem right. He was my wide receiver, I think, 1 last year.
Yeah.
And in my main league, I just didn't exactly love having him there. He didn't give me those 20-point games throughout the season that you want to see. He gave me those 12s and those 16s.
He was solid, but he wasn't a big boomer.
His floor was certainly there, and then he had like a 50 or 40 or he had a week where it was great. And yes, that week was great, but I like to see out of my first round picks 20 points spread throughout the weeks rather than 40 at the end of the week and take away 5 from each week, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, Ceedee Lamb, big playability, and just bringing it all back. I think there's more to build on. I just don't think it's all been put together the way that we all think that Ceedee Lamb, the actual talent he has, I don't think it's been put together yet.
Right. And I mean, I think another thing we can look at is I do think there is room for possible progression considering Cooper Rush played for, 4 or 5 of those games. So I think he's a guy that if you do draft him, if he kind of slides a little bit, which I don't think he will because I think his ADP is 12, which, we're talking right at the turn. But he's a guy, don't question drafting him. It's just his perceived ceiling for us is not as high as the guys we previously stated. That's all.
Right.
So
I think that if you're drafting later in that round, in the first round or at the top of the second, and you see a guy like Ceedee, but then there's also an A.J. Brown, an Amon-Ra.
Right. I'm drafting those guys before.
Yeah, even like a Derrick Henry, a Tony Pollard. I'm taking those guys over Ceedee personally, just because, yes, he is that wide receiver 1, but that upside isn't exactly there.
Ceedee,
I wouldn't recommend taking him, but obviously if you have an inside connection, if you talk to this guy on a regular basis and you just know he's going to go off, then I'd have no problem with you taking him.
Personally, I'd probably draft 2 receivers. If I'm right on the turn and I see 2, if I see Ceedee and I like Ceedee, and then I see, Garrett Wilson, I'm taking both of them.
If you want to take Ceedee, definitely pair him with another alpha.
Yeah.
And I think that makes you have a really good position and probably an advantage in the wide receiver position throughout the year.
Absolutely. So moving on, tied for 10th, we have Chris Olave and Davante Adams. So Olave is a guy I'm certainly targeting in the second round of my drafts. Last year he was like the air yard king. He was getting all the deep balls. He's really an operator, man. I love watching him as a former high school receiver. He's just a guy that you love to watch tape on. He does everything correct. But again, like Garrett Wilson, Derek Carr obviously is not equivalent to Aaron Rodgers, but getting him versus Andy Dalton last year, that's certainly something to be excited about with his progression.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a guy that I think he missed a few games last year. So certainly someone that we're looking to take that next step. He was still great, especially coming in as a rookie on a rough offense. 17th in yardage, broke 1,000 yards, 119 targets last year. So if we can see that tick up to 140, 150-ish, 72 receptions last year, that's going to go up. If we can get that close to 100, you'd think positive touchdown regression. He only had 4 last year. The guy's a burner. He's the alpha in that offense because Michael Thomas has so many questions. They don't really have a defined number 2 guy if Michael Thomas is to miss time. So I love Olave. I think he could definitely be a steal at where he's getting drafted near the end of the second round.
Yeah, obviously a guy with a high floor, high ceiling. You'd love to see that. You already mentioned only 4 touchdowns on 72 receptions and over 1,000 yards. That's kind of just an anomaly in itself. 72 receptions, 1,000 yards, and then 4 touchdowns. Right. So
you expect to see like 7.
Right. You expect to see something change there in a positive way. Derek Carr, I think we see even more downfield targets for him. Davante got so many downfield targets. I don't see why Olave wouldn't. And especially as a guy that already gets those downfield targets. Yeah, super, super excited about Olave. If you can get him at the 2-3 turn, if he's still there, definitely grab him. I know we're both looking for that option. Yeah. He probably won't be there in our league. If he's there in your league, definitely take him. Also, if you can even get him in the middle of the second round, I'm absolutely okay with that. Yeah. Great receiver, great upside, and second-year leap as well.
Right.
That's all I got on Chris Olave. But, yeah, guys, look for him.
The next guy we're moving to, probably in your top 2 real-life rankings, Davante Adams. But fantasy this year is kind of murky to me. You got Jimmy G coming over, and like you said just now with Derek Carr throwing it deep, Adams averaged 15 yards a catch, which was his greatest yards per catch total in his career, and now he's getting Jimmy G. So a guy that we have seen get hurt time and time again, although I do have confidence with him being in McDaniel's offense, that familiarity with being in New England. I think Davante, he's still going to be a guy that gets targets. He's an absolute alpha. He can beat anyone off the line. He can do he can run all the routes in the route tree. There's no doubt in my mind about Davante. It's just the situation around him that scares me. That's why we have him ranked tied for 10th. If Derek Carr was still there, he'd probably be in the A.J. Brown, Diggs tier, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, and even maybe above that, like he's honestly a great receiver, and he was absolutely amazing for whoever had him on their fantasy team last year. And I know coming over from Green Bay, I was just thinking, Aaron Rodgers is such a great quarterback. He can throw his receivers open. I think that maybe he's doing that with Davante. Like, is this guy really legit? And then he goes over and joins Derek Carr, who's obviously a lower tier quarterback than Rodgers is, and just commands targets as well. So I think it's actually his talent that really just commands targets, commands that respect from his quarterback. The question, as you said, is this new offense, can he put it together with Baker Mayfield at quarterback? With Jimmy G as quarterback. That gives me a little bit more hope than Baker.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, it's just a little bit of a question mark there. But Davante Adams is a great receiver.
He's a stud.
If you want to take him at the 2-3 turn, I think his upside is wide receiver 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right.
So.
All right. Getting into our next tier break. Guys who are kind of like wide receiver 2s, but are still have the potential to finish. Wide receiver 2s in real life with the potential to finish as wide receiver 1s or in that upper tier of wide receiver 2s. Guys that, to me, you can plug and play in your lineup and not think twice about it. We'll start with DaVonta Smith.
Yeah, DaVonta Smith, I mentioned earlier, more receptions last year than A.J. Brown. This is a guy that, coming out of college, probably the best we've ever seen at the wide receiver position. Heisman winner at wide receiver, absolutely crazy. And he's the wide receiver 2 in that offense. I don't know how A.J. Brown stays ahead of him, honestly. Like, this guy is so extremely talented. So is A.J. Brown. The Eagles are just set there. But, yeah, 4 less touchdowns. He has a little bit less touchdown upside just because the running game and size. A.J. Brown just, being such a physical presence.
Yeah.
From a pure talent standpoint, I think he might be one of the best wide receivers I've ever watched played. It's hard to compare. He's so fast. He's lanky. He's quick. Everything you like to see in a wide receiver.
I mean, yeah, man, he had 95%. I mean, like you're saying, he was neck and neck with A.J. Brown. The only thing that concerns me is the split that with when Dallas Goedert went out versus when he was playing. It was very noticeable that Davante had a big uptick in his usage. So that's something that would, kind of make me weary of drafting him as high as he's going at the 2-3 turn. But I think the talent's undeniable. And if we're projecting him to go forward, obviously 7 touchdowns. I think his totals will be similar to last year. But a guy that I'm looking at, his cushion was 5.3 yards. So DBs are afraid of him. He has that burner speed. I'm a Redskins fan. I saw him dominate us last year. He's mossing on our guys, making them look silly. But in a high-powered offense, DaVonta Smith, guys, he's a stud. Like you said, best receiver in college football. He's just a beast. I have no issue with drafting him on my team as my wide receiver 1. Considering I go 2 running backs in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, someone that's being drafted right around Mark Andrews, Travis Etienne. I see them as very comparable. Yeah. Ramondre Stevenson. So definitely going to get your value there. I love him there. If you can get Jahmyr Gibbs before him, I might go there. Pivot that way just because of that extreme upside. But if DaVonta Smith was the wide receiver 1, I think we'd have him even higher in the rankings.
Yeah.
With A.J. Brown there, his ceiling is a little bit limited. But yeah, obviously a great player and someone that I would love to have on my team if I got him at good value. So next we have
Mr. Higgins.
I
love me some T. Higgins.
Yes.
A guy that seemingly makes all the catches, operates great as the number 2 in that offense. I think he's a great talent, would be a wide receiver 1 on many teams. I had him last year, was very happy with him. I think his points per game are a little brought down because he played about 2 or 3 games where he literally only played 1 or 2 snaps, which was very unfortunate as a fantasy owner. But, I mean, the guy still finished over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, over 100 targets, 75 receptions. He's a guy that I remember watching the Dolphins game last year. I mean, he exploded, caught a deep ball, burnt Xavier Howard. I just think he's a guy that's very interesting in terms of what he can do in the red zone, but also on a yards per catch basis. He's going to get those intermediate to deep routes. And then in a Bengals offense that's wide open, he's going to get volume at the end of the day. So I think Higgins is a great pick in the third round. I would be confident with him. He's not someone I would shy away from. And then again, as long as Burrow stays healthy, I have no question with him.
Yeah, to me, Higgins is like the definition of a wide receiver too.
He's like what every team would want next to their alpha.
Right. He is the definition of a wide receiver too in fantasy. He will not finish below 24 if he's healthy, and
Right.
he probably won't break 12. But he will be right in that range.
Yep. You know what you're getting.
You know what you're getting. And someone that you can get in the middle of the third round, if you get one of those high-end running backs and then compare him with someone like Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson, you are looking at a great start to your fantasy draft with a hero running back and 2 wide receivers that can produce week to week.
Right.
I think Higgins is great where we have him. And yes, his upside is capped a little bit with Jamar Chase. But as we said, he's going to get you a wide receiver 2 production.
Yeah, I mean, he's good for 15 points a game, it feels like.
Yeah.
But moving on, we got your boy, Keenan Allen.
Yeah, so Keenan Allen is someone that...
I think we're higher on him than most people are, and I know higher than... Consensus has him at 21. So we got him at tied for 14th.
Yeah, so Keenan Allen, when he's healthy, I don't think is deniable as a top wide receiver. He's
Wide receiver 4 when he was healthy from weeks 11 to 18. Wide receiver 4 overall.
Yeah, I mean,
a beast.
He is a beast. Like, he really is. If you watch him play, the way he dissects defenses, it's almost like he's playing telekinesis with the quarterback. He did it with Phillip Rivers, and he's doing it now with Justin Herbert. He finds the soft spot in the zone. He sits there, and he gets found. Absolute security blanket, and he can get you like 10 receptions and a half. I mean, this guy gets open. Target hog. If you're in PPR,
Hog.
Yeah, another target hog. If you're in PPR, you love to have him on your team. Yeah. And as a wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside, he is someone that I'm targeting in all my drafts.
Yeah, I love him in the third round. I mean, absolutely love him. His ADP apparently is 47 right now. In our league, I know he's going to go in like the bottom of the third. But, guys, he's the number 1 wide receiver in that offense. I think we forget that. And with Mike Williams' health being a question so often, I mean, I know Keenan's getting up there in age. But, dude, I mean, Keenan Allen is just an absolute beast. He averaged 2.35 yards per route run. So when he's healthy playing and he's getting the ball, he's efficient with it in his hands. Like you said, he's another guy that I just call an operator. You see him work out there. It's like you can scheme up whatever you want on defense. He's going to find the hole, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he's just great.
Yep.
A guy that, like you said, I don't question at all with his ability. I mean, still garnered 66 receptions last year, 89 targets, so almost broke that 100 target mark with the limited amount of games he played. Keenan Allen, guys, if he's in the bottom of the third round for you, go get him.
Yeah,
I love him there.
Absolutely. Not going to be your flashiest pick. He's not someone like a Garrett Wilson that's like, oh, what's he going to do this year? You know what he's going to do. And it's going to be good for you. So forget the flash on this one. Yeah. Go with the Chargers, baby. We're going to the Super Bowl, and it's going to be because of Keenan Allen. So let's go. Next one. Let's freaking go.
All right, y'all heard
Keenan
that
Allen,
here.
boys. Take him.
Super Bowl prediction coming out already. But next guy we have is someone that you and I both really like. Amari Cooper for Cleveland. I think last year we saw him finally get back to that form that we all wanted to see. Him and Keenan are very similar in play style, I feel like. Supreme route runners, guys that can really be target hogs, but also very efficient with the ball in their hands. I think a full year with Deshaun Watson will be very beneficial to Amari Cooper. I think he was 11th in yardage, 9 touchdowns. A guy that, even though he is 29, I think last year was a very encouraging sign to see him come back to that form, even on a down offense. Someone who has very great hands. high yards per route run. I'm targeting him in my drafts if he's in the 4th round. I mean, there's no question to me I'm taking him if he's on the board.
Yeah. As you said, great operator back there. Consistently a viable wide receiver on your fantasy team. Just like Keenan Allen, he's going to probably finish somewhere between the 10 to 15 range. And, yeah, he could take a step up this year with Deshaun Watson.
I think so.
Deshaun, if he gets into form, guys, we could see an actually very efficient Browns offense.
Yes.
They might be a team that can make some ripples in the playoffs. That would be a very interesting sight to see. But, yeah, Amari Cooper, another guy we absolutely love.
Great value, in my opinion.
Yeah, great value, absolutely.
So
as you said, round 4.
Yeah, that's if he's on the board, I'm clicking that no hesitation at all.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Him and Keenan Allen in round 4 might be the 2 biggest steals I can see right now.
So moving on to our next guy at 17, someone I'm very high on. If you're not getting him, best believe I am. We've already talked about this. DJ Moore, guys, coming over to Chicago in that trade for the number 1 overall pick.
Okay, can I just say something real quick?
Yes.
Guys, I was drafting a team earlier, and DJ Moore went in the 2nd round. Yes, we saw that catch he had in preseason. Don't go taking him in the 2nd round, okay?
Yeah.
He's not 2nd round material,
No.
but continue going because he's still great.
Yeah. I mean, guys, 96% snap share last year, and he's the undisputed number 1 in that offense. If we're expecting Justin Fields to take even a slight progression in passing, DJ Moore is going to be a direct beneficiary of that. I love the guy. He's efficient.
You
even
love him.
with. Oh, I love DJ Moore. I've had him the last 2 years. I love me some DJ Moore.
He does love DJ Moore.
I'm getting me some shares. If DJ Moore's on the board, boys, he's on my team.
That's true.
I think everyone in the league already knows that. At least you do. So at least you're aware.
Well, we've seen him on your team every year. Yeah.
DJ Moore, guys, I think like Keenan, Cooper, I mean, all these guys that we've talked about in this tier, a guy that is going to finish as a wide receiver too when he's on the field. He demands targets. He's talented. He gets open. He's going to get targeted in the end zone. He can operate as an alpha wide receiver in an offense. DJ Moore, guys, he's my smash pick this year.
Yeah. Great player. And if you could pair him up with Justin Fields, that's an absolutely insane stack that I know both me and you are going for. Unfortunately, I have to make the decision to take Fields or Moore because coming down that 3rd round, I'm drafting at the later end and he's drafting even later. So if I don't grab Justin Fields or DJ Moore, he's grabbing them on the turn.
Yep.
So I have to decide, guys. Please let me know. What should I do? Do I just go Fields in the 3rd round?
Leave him for me.
Do I just go DJ Moore in the 3rd round? I don't know what to do. I might just let him get the stack and stack T. Higgins and Joe Burrow. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, man. DJ Moore, guys, that's my big pick this year. I think he's going to outperform his position incredibly. But moving on. So this is our next tier break. A very polarizing guy. Deebo Samuel.
Yeah.
Got drafted in the 2nd round last year. Finished very, very low. He only had 600 receiving yards, I believe, which was just insane to say because he had 1,400 the year before. His rushing on the ground was still efficient. We still saw that, but it just wasn't there for Deebo last year. Aiyuk really took over as the, de facto wide receiver 1 in that offense. But I think Deebo is primed for a bounce back. He seemed really pissed off about his finish, about his performance last year. And I think with Kyle Shanahan at the helm there, I think Deebo is going to come back up. I have no issue with where he's getting taken. Bottom of the 3rd, top of the 4th. He's a guy at the 3-4 turn I'd love to get. Definitely would be targeting Deebo if you got that range of picks.
Yeah, someone I'm personally staying away from because of the concerns you brought up with Brandon Aiyuk and Brock Purdy returning as the starter there. They really had a great connection.
They did.
But there's absolutely no reason to believe that Deebo can't step up and become that wide receiver 1 again. Absolutely explosive when he has the ball in his hands. One of the most crafty wide receivers in the league. And someone that I might not take, but I'm also not going to bash someone for wanting him. The upside's definitely there. I remember I had Nick Chubb last year towards the beginning of the year. And The Tron League, one of our secondary leagues. I traded him for Nick Chubb.
Bad decision.
Terrible decision.
Bad decision.
But guys, this is coming off. Who did he break that huge run off of where he broke like 4 tackles?
The one against Jalen Ramsey? Is that what
So it was against the Rams?
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys.
He has that ability.
Yeah.
I mean,
great receiver. Well, it's yet to see how it plays out, but someone that's not going to tear down your fantasy team. He's not going to be bad value for you.
Like my thought process, 2 touchdowns last year, receiving wise, 600 yards, as we said. Those have to go up. And then again, I just think there's no way you can't think you're not getting this guy at a discount. You know, I mean, I feel like everyone's kind of down on him. There's no way he doesn't at least have a solid year. I think he's great value there at the 3-4 turn. But other than that,
and then that's just a difference in opinion, difference in style of teams we like to draft, but certainly a great option.
Yeah, I have no problem drafting him. Next guy is someone I'm very low on. Personally, have him as the 23 wide receiver, so a low end wide receiver 2. DK Metcalf. I have never had him personally on my team. I don't know, man. I feel like he doesn't. Like, he puts up numbers. He really does.
Yeah.
I just don't know what it is. It just seems like game to game, it's just not there. I mean, he had 90 receptions, 141 targets, which is just target hog material.
Yeah.
And then 1,048 yards, only 6 touchdowns. You'd like to see more than that out of DK because we see the size, we know the ability. Like, I think he's a great receiver. In fantasy, he's just a little too inconsistent for my liking. ADP 35, so you're looking at bottom of the 3rd round. Plenty of other guys I like there more.
Yeah, DK is someone that is going to explode on the man-to-man games and is going to be more silent on the zone games. We know how the Seahawks like to run their offense. So take him with a little bit of caution. 24 end zone targets last year, led the league. I think that's great. He's going to see the target volume there. So it's a matter of putting it together for him.
Right.
And the consistency might not be what you like in the 3rd round pick. But other than that, I like him as a physical specimen. I like him as a player. Very gritty, very get off of me. Like, I'm bigger than you.
Yeah.
He kind of reminds me of the ref in that college football finals.
Yeah.
He's like just huge. Like, looks like he should be in some type of weightlifting competition, but.
So with 24 end zone targets, you gotta think those 6 touchdowns go up.
Absolutely.
They're like that's one of those things, guys. That's one of those stats you have to look at and understand that he's due for positive regression. So, like 24 end zone targets, that's insane. I mean, that's six above the next guy, who was Davante Adams, who led the league in touchdowns. So, I mean, I do see the potential for progression. It's just inconsistency just steers me away from him. It's kind of like us with Deebo and DK are kind of opposite.
Yeah.
A guy that I personally won't have any shares of in DK Metcalf, but if you can get him as your wide receiver 2, lower than it's just his ADP, dude. At 35, I mean, I'm taking guys like Keenan, Cooper, and I would even take DJ Moore over DK personally. But anyways, guys, that's how I feel about DK. Just play your board. If you like him, you think he's primed for a comeback, then go for him. Next guy, polarizing guy. Not sure how to rank him. Obviously missed a year due to gambling. Yep, talking about Calvin Ridley.
Mm-hmm. So
he's on the Jags now. For those of you who didn't know, I'm sure most of you know because fantasy pages are going crazy over him.
Yep.
I've seen him being ranked as high as like a low 2nd round guy, which to me is absurd. Considering you have Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, Travis Etienne to all feed in that offense. Now, I do think Ridley is going to be the wide receiver 1.
Absolutely.
I do think he's going to demand well over 100 targets. You and I are both pretty high on Trevor Lawrence this season.
Yep.
So the volumes there, that offense is going to be
not
great.
as ADP. Don't get us wrong.
Right. But Ridley, so he's our number 20 guy. I do think there is room for him to outperform that, certainly.
Yeah.
I think his last season he had over 1,500 yards. So the talent's obvious. It's just a year off can either do wonders or take you back like Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
So Ridley, a guy I like, not targeting as ADP.
Guy you like, don't exactly love. Me personally, I really like Calvin Ridley. I have actually flipped my whole thought process behind him. There's still going to be targets taken away from him, but reports out of camp is that he's on a whole nother level. He's another gear. So you love to hear things like that. He's going to be the clear wide receiver 1. The question is he a big enough mouth to feed to where you can take away from the other ones? People like Evan Ingram has also been absolutely fantastic for them. And people like Christian Kirk is also fantastic for them. So, guys, we just see a lot of talent there, which I guess I do know. Like, that's great for fantasy. It's great for their offense.
It opens
it's
things
just
up.
How much of it does he receive personally?
Right. 37 ADP.
Yeah, certainly someone with a very great range of outcomes.
Yeah.
I think he's a low floor type of guy in the process of the whole season and a pretty high ceiling type of guy as well. So if you're going to get a wide receiver 1 type output from him, he's going to be a steal.
Right.
There's just so much uncertainty that it's hard to confidently take him. The reports are good in camp, so that's all we got right now.
Right. So one thing I'll add is like he's a guy where if you want to take that risk at a guy that you can get as positioned as a wide receiver 2, but can finish as a top wide receiver, get Calvin Ridley. If you're a guy that wants to take that risk, I certainly see it. It's just a matter of it actually happening. So that's all we got on him. Moving next is my favorite wide receiver of all time.
And if you guys watch our videos, the past couple of videos, you would know who this is. So
Facts.
You have 5 seconds to guess. Comment down below. Who is it?
All right. It better be up there. But that guy's DeAndre Hopkins. I love DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know how people are calling him washed up. Saw him come back last year and just it's like he never missed a beat. The dude was amazing. Even with Colt McCoy throwing him the ball, he was dominating. He was getting fed. This guy is coming in as the wide receiver 1 at Tennessee. You can tell right now I'm ecstatic about him. I love the guy. Just being drafted at 52, top of the 5th. I think he's great value as a wide receiver 2. An alpha in an offense. He's going to get fed. He's going to get quality targets. He's going to get schemed up. They haven't had this, they had A.J. Brown 2 years ago, and this is who they need. Yeah. So, to me, if Tannehill's healthy, Hopkins is a guy that's going to outperform that position.
Yeah, definitely. I love Hopkins where he's being taken. I think at 52, you said.
Yes.
That's absolutely amazing. Yeah. Someone that I'll be looking for now that is mentioned in the 5th round.
Yeah.
As well, guys, someone similar to Davante Adams, how I perceive him, you don't know where he's going to be, but you know he's good enough to command the targets.
Right.
And we've seen it throughout his career. If he can keep up, if nothing happens injury-wise, I see no reason for him not to be an absolutely amazing steal in your draft. If you're looking for super high upside, maybe you have a better floor guy, like a T. Higgins, certainly go for DeAndre Hopkins. And I think you'll be very happy. Or even a Chris Olave, DeAndre Hopkins matchup. Guys, we are just giving you free value here. Like, you can match up all these guys and just be winners in your league. So,
right. If
he's great.
If your league mates are low on Hopkins, guys, take advantage of that. He's primed. I just think I know Tennessee isn't perceived as a great situation in real life, but I think fantasy-wise, as long as Tannehill's healthy, he's going to get fed. Yeah. Next guy who we have some news going with him, Terry McLaurin. So we saw him with the toe injury. Turned out to be turf toe. Questionable for week 1. Saw that it happened in the preseason game against Baltimore, unfortunately. So, I don't know how much it knocks him down. Maybe a little bit, because turf toe is something that can linger. Yeah. So you definitely don't want that. That could be very frustrating. Unfortunately, I'm a Washington fan, so this hits home. But Jahan Dotson is a guy that I would certainly slightly overdraft now. I think even with his initial connection with Sam Howell, he's looking on the up. But McLaurin, the guy's at 22, averaged 15 yards per reception last year. He seems to get it done year in and year out. Not the most consistent fantasy guy, so that's why he's kind of a lower wide receiver 2 for us. But ninth in yardage last year, 77 receptions, 90% snap share. You know he's going to be on the field. He demands targets. I remember when we went to the Chargers-Redskins game, that catch he made on the sideline falling, the ball went right through the DB's hands, and I closed my eyes in disappointment because I thought it was an interception, and McLaurin came up with it. So
he seems to have a lot of those catches, dude.
He's
like throughout his career and
his
throughout the
possession,
seasons.
body control. I mean, he's very talented as a receiver, but fantasy leaves a little bit to be desired in terms of consistency. But when he gets the ball, he's great. So, I mean, you'd like to see a little bit of positive touchdown regression with only 5 last year. So I think with a more open offense, Eric Bieniemy coming in from the Chiefs, I think that should certainly scheme him up some more high quality opportunities.
Yeah, about 50 receptions left to be had based off his targets.
Right.
I mean, I love to see that upside there. As you said, Bieniemy's going to come in with a new plan. I think we see a new Washington football team, something that we've been looking for. They've been building up their defense for a while now, and it's remained to be really fully realized because of their inefficiency on offense. I think all that is solved with Bieniemy, and they could be a team to vie for the NFC East this year if things fall together well. We know that teams generally do not repeat. I don't see it being the Dallas Cowboys this year, guys. So
it's probably the Eagles, dude. We're just breathing hot air right now.
It's since what, 2010?
What, no repeat?
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. It might be earlier than that. It's something crazy.
Like, guys, it
just
doesn't matter
happen.
how high everyone is on the Eagles this year. They're going to be good, but it might be the Commanders this year. You never know. It's usually just Cowboys, Eagles, Cowboys, Eagles. Could be the Cowboys. I just don't see how that's going to happen unless they kick Dak to the trash can and throw in Trey Lance.
I don't know about all that. But, yeah, I mean, McLaurin, if that offense is more efficient, he'll get higher volume, get more quality targets, and outperform this ranking that we have.
Yeah.
So next guy, someone that you and I really like where he's getting drafted, a guy that led his offense respectively, outperformed Deebo. So we're talking about Brandin Aiyuk getting drafted as the number 67 player on the board. So we're looking at mid to bottom of the 6th, which really surprises me. Aiyuk was great last year, even though he didn't get a lot of high quality targets. He paced that receiver room with over 1,000 yards, 113 targets, 8 touchdowns, and he only had 3 end zone targets. So someone that made it happen, guys. I love Brandin Aiyuk this year. I think he's a guy that you could even wait on in your draft as your wide receiver 2 and still feel good about it.
Absolutely. If you go for a tight end or a quarterback
Right.
in one of those early rounds, Ayuk's a guy I'm certainly looking to later in the draft. As a flex option, he's OD. So I think Ayuk's great here.
Yeah.
Absolute value there. One of the guys that, like a Keenan Allen or an Amari Cooper, like if you can get your hands on him, he's certainly going to return for you,
Right.
and has that upside to return massively.
Absolutely. So this Aiyuk also represents our next tier break to a lower tier. Guys that definitely have the potential to finish as wide receiver 2, just a little bit of questionable, and whether it's their offense or just what we've seen out of them in previous years. But anyways, moving on to our second guy in this tier, number 24. So our final wide receiver 2, Drake London. So we saw him really come on at the end of the year last year when Desmond Ridder played those final 4 games. Had a massive target share, something you love to see out of a rookie. Again, one of those rookie guys. Guys, draft rookie receivers in this year's draft. A few of them are guaranteed to get you points. You can't go wrong there. But like we were saying, I just think Drake London takes that next step. We really saw the talent there. I think he's obviously the alpha in the offense. I don't even, as much as I love the NFL, I don't know who that wide receiver is. Oh, Mac Hollins. Mac Hollins is the wide receiver too. Big whoop, guys. So Drake London is someone I'm definitely targeting.
I actually kind of like Mac Hollins this year. That's funny.
Okay. But 5'6" turn, getting drafted at 61. I love Drake London there. Another guy like Brandin Aiyuk, who I would be certainly confident, like you said, if you're drafting quarterback or tight end in there somewhere, getting him as your wide receiver 2, I think he returns great value.
Yeah, Drake London's a guy with massive talent. He's basically competing with the tight end 31 of last year for targets. I think that's absolutely amazing. His biggest target scare is Bijan Robinson coming out of the backfield. So absolutely amazing. Upside there. Drake London, a guy that we really want to see put together a full season of greatness. And this could be his year. It remains to be seen that Falcons offense, how it's going to operate.
You can't think there's less passing volume or quality targets for him with Desmond Ridder in a full season versus Mariota throwing to him.
Yeah.
And guys, just to emphasize on his dominance in that offense, 29.4% target share, tied for fourth with DeAndre Hopkins. So the guy demands targets. He gets open. He's a big-bodied guy. 11 end zone targets last year. So good for tied for 11th. So he's a guy that's going to get quality targets. He's going to get fed in that offense. So I love Drake London this year, especially where he's getting drafted.
Yeah, top of the 6th round. Absolutely great value there.
I mean, he's another guy. If you have him as your flex, you're more than happy.
Yeah. Javonte Williams, Alvin Kamara, Cam Akers, DeAndre Swift, Mike Williams, James Conner. Going around those types of guys, Rachaad White.
Yeah.
So depending on where you're strong, wide receiver versus running back, I would look to him if you're strong at running back and could use a little bit of reassurance at the wide receiver spot. And if you're strong at the wide receiver spot, you could certainly look to him as a flex or pivot to a guy like Javonte Williams who has upside, or Rachaad White with a little bit more workhorse potential, or James Conner.
So moving on, tied for 25th, a guy I had last year, really liked having. I think he's going to outperform where he's getting drafted, and he's in an explosive offense, as we've already stated, with another receiver. Christian Kirk, guys, for the Jaguars. We saw him come over on that big deal. Everyone was freaking out because he signed a big deal, messed up the wide receiver market. We're like, why Christian Kirk? I think he proved to all of us why he was handed that contract. I mean, he operated great in that offense. Was a guy I enjoyed having. 13th in yardage, had 133 targets, 8 touchdowns. A guy that just seemingly always got open, was highly targeted, as I said. I just think 2.13 yards per route run, so he certainly breaks that threshold. And I just think he's a guy that operates at all levels of the field. We see him in the slot, so that's what encourages me with Kirk, is that Ridley coming in, we know he's on the outside. Kirk still has that defiant slot role. Guys, we are in the modern NFL. 3 wide receiver sets are common. He's even going to be in there on 2 wide receiver sets. Christian Kirk is a guy who, at pick 74, bottom of the 6th, top of the 7th. I took him at the top of the 8th last year. So you're looking at like a round and a half, maybe 2 round difference. But I think that's great value. Mm-hmm. A guy that personally, I mean, obviously we have him ranked as a low wide receiver 2. If I have him as my wide receiver 2 and the rest of my team is stacked, I'm feeling good about it.
Yeah, playing as the flex receiver, as you said, or the slot receiver, as you said. Yes, that's absolutely going to be great. He has that secured. As you said, Calvin Ridley has really stepped up as the wide receiver 1 there. But you think of recent guys that have been slot receivers, high-flying offense or high-powered offense. I think of people like Hunter Renfrow, who had great return 2 years ago. And I think he could have that same type of return for you. I like him where I have him right now. And I don't see any reason for him to move. If anything, he will fly up draft boards as we approach the draft.
So tied with him, and some news on this guy, Jerry Jeudy, unfortunately hurt his hamstring. I know you're disappointed about that guy. You really liked. A guy I was pretty high on. But Jeudy, his ADP at the time is 57. Obviously, we're going to see that slide. Not sure. Just really breaks my confidence, because every year I feel like we're like, this is Judy's year. He's going to break out. He's going to finish as a high-end wide receiver 2. And then he gets injured again this year. So already seeing that, pretty sketchy, but a guy who was very efficient down the stretch last year. We know the route running ability, arguably the best route runner in the game. I don't have much more to say on that. That injury scares me away. Probably someone that I'm no longer targeting. And a guy that if you want to buy low on him, go get him. I have no problem with giving up, a lower end guy on your team to go get him if someone's really heartbroken over him. But otherwise, Jeudy's not someone I'm interested in, especially at that price tag right now. But assuming that does fall, maybe you can get him at good value.
Yeah, that turf toe really kills my love of Jerry Jeudy. I had him, and towards the end of last season, he really became a big asset for my fantasy team. This year, probably not as good of an upside due to the fact that he's going to miss a game or two. And Sean Payton there gives me a little more hope. So
yeah, I like that.
Definitely someone that you're going to have to think about before you draft. Make sure that you're taking him for a reason. Don't just draft him because he's on your board, because this is a guy that could very easily be lower than we have him right now and higher than we have him right now. So certainly not someone I would take thinking, oh, this is going to be a secure guy on my team that I can rely on, and then take higher upside guys later on. I see him as more of a higher upside guy with a low floor as well. Take Jerry Jeudy with caution this year. Where he's going, I don't see too much problem with it, but you can definitely find some more value.
Right. I would just say with Jeudy, it's I think you hit it. Like, just got to be careful, man. I would be comfortable if you already have 2 stud receivers taking a chance on them. I'm okay with that. But taking him as your wide receiver 2 or something, that would scare me.
Yeah.
But that's all I got for Jeudy. So moving on, a real wild card this year. I feel like you're going to get a lot of different answers on where he's going to finish, where people have him ranked. Marquise Brown for the Cardinals. We know that Cardinals offense is atrocious, but kind of like James Conner at his position, who's backing him up? He's going to get a bunch of targets. How quality those targets are, I don't know. But they're going to be playing from behind a lot. Marquise Brown is an electric player. We have seen injury in the past. Like I say all the time, guys, you don't project for injury, but Marquise Brown is a guy who could heavily, at being picked at 85 right now, someone who could heavily outperform that ADP. Bottom of the 7th, top of the 8th, I'd be more than glad to take Marquise Brown as my wide receiver 4, let's say. So Marquise Brown, I would target him certainly as an ADP. I don't think there's any way he really finishes below that, barring any injury. So I think there's a lot of upside there. I like Marquise Brown when he's getting drafted.
Yeah, I think Marquise Brown is a great option. Looking at him right now, 107 targets over 12 games, 67 receptions, only 3 touchdowns, 709 yards, 12 red zone targets, 4 end zone targets, 37.8% routes run, 91% snap share, average target distance of 9.9. I mean, definitely a boom type of guy.
Right.
Obviously has the favor of Kyler Murray. The more I look at him, the more I like him. I took him in a draft I did earlier today and absolutely love the team that I got out of it. So,
One thing I'd say with the quarterback situation is Murray could come back a lot earlier than we were all expecting. So if Murray's coming back earlier, not that I think he's going to come back, starting week 1, but if he comes back, halfway through the season and your team is already doing well and you have a guy like Marquise Brown and Murray gets back to form, that's a guy who I think is a guy we would be looking at as a season winner, championship winner when the playoffs come in. So, guys, like I said, if you're drafting him as your wide receiver 4, I'm all in on that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Next, number 28, we got Chris Godwin. I think you and I are a little higher on him than consensus. He is getting drafted at 65, though, which I think is a fair valuation of Chris Godwin this year. He's another guy that seems to get it done year in, year out. He's going to get receptions. His efficiency wasn't as high last year, but that was also just because that offensive line was awful. Brady was getting the ball out in like 2 seconds every single play. So I do think with Baker doesn't mind stretching the field a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now the quality of those targets, again, are going to go down. But I think Godwin is a guy we see break 1,000 yards all the time. So I think he's quality. If you can get him as your flex guy, I'm cool with that. Kind of like a Marquise Brown situation, bad offense, but he's a stud. Godwin's a stud of a guy. We've seen him finish, as a high-end Pro Bowler. He's a guy that I like at ADP.
Yeah, I like him at ADP as well. I think he's a guy you can certainly look to draft. I've seen him fall just because of the uncertainty with Baker in that offense. And if he does fall to you, I certainly would say go take him. Honestly, at this point in the draft where you're going to see him, you're probably going to be pretty flexible on who you're taking, wide receiver or running back. So I have no problem with you taking Chris Godwin.
Yeah. One thing I'll say with Godwin, only 3 touchdowns last year. So again, a guy that you would assume positive regression for that. Great contested catch rate, 55% on 18 contested catches. So a guy that makes it happen. We see him operate at the intermediate short level of the field. Doesn't exactly play in the Baker's strengths, but I think he'll figure it out. I think Chris Godwin's a guy to take as your wide receiver 3. So moving on, kind of where we start to get some question marks on guys. Obviously, we already have some, but guys that I don't really – 2 guys tied at 29. Lockett and Mike Williams. Personally, I will have no shares of either of them in my drafts. Lockett is getting drafted 1 pick behind Chris Godwin. Obviously, like Godwin a lot more. No disrespect to Lockett, guys. He gets it done year in and year out, so I'm a doubter that gets proven wrong year in and year out. He had another solid season last year, 1,033 yards, 117 targets, 9 touchdowns, a 92% true catch rate. Nothing really not to like about the guy, 2.06 yards per route run. So everything I'm saying is good. It's just I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of contradicting myself here, but Lockett's a guy that could certainly outperform that. I just don't see it at the ADP, and there's got to be some year he drops off, right?
That's what I think about when I look at Lockett.
Yeah.
Like, he's been good, it seems like, for a while, and I don't really know why, but he just continues to do it. So, honestly, if you want to take him, no problems over here. Zone offense, they're going to Lockett. Man, they're going to DK.
Right. One thing I want to say is people are scared with like JSN cutting into his role, but I really think all 3 of them have like very defined roles within that offense. Like DK is the physical. DK can operate at all levels of the field. Lockett's more of a stretch guy, speed guy, and then JSN's more of that underneath operator, route runner, Keenan Allen-esque type of guy.
Mm-hmm.
So all of them have that. So JSN doesn't really worry me here. I just think it's a combination of age and can he keep that efficiency up? That's the questions I have. I'll probably get proved wrong again, guys. So don't listen to me. You should probably go draft him. I won't be drafting him. I'll probably look dumb. So, anyways, moving on to our next guy, Mike Williams, who another guy I won't be drafting, but ADP of 70. So, guys, Godwin, Lockett, and Mike Williams are all right there. I just think Mike Will is the definition of a boom or bust guy.
Yeah.
We see it year in and year out. Someone gets, I don't know the appropriate word for us. Someone gets really high on him and then takes him thinking he's going to be a solid wide receiver 2, gets disappointed by the ups and downs. And then it's like, do I start him? Do I sit him? I think Luke was in a league with a guy last year who literally sat Mike Williams every single time he had a good game and started him every single time he had a bad game. So a guy that's going to break your heart, mess with your head. That's why I won't have any shares of him.
Yeah, someone that has a great connection with Justin Herbert. I
really
actually
does.
love watching them play. When that Chargers offense has all their guys healthy, they're a really scary offense. And it just seems like Mike Williams breaks like a 70-yard catch every time they're flying high. Played only 13 games last year. It doesn't seem like he's been able to put together a full season of health. And even when he is on the field, a lot of times there's still questions about his health. When he's playing healthy, guys, he's a great talent. We saw it in Clemson. We've seen it every year that he plays healthy. But in those 13 games, 93 targets, 63 receptions, 895 yards, so almost 900 yards in 13 games as the wide receiver 2. They called him the X wide receiver. Last year, with Quentin Johnson coming in, I think he could take away from some of what Mike Williams is. Other than that, guys, 14 red zone targets, 7 end zone targets, and this is over 13 games. I mean, he's someone to stay away from.
Yeah.
After saying all that, I mean, guys, he's going to be questionable. And
not to cut you off, I mean, we've seen games where he's healthy playing, and it's like, where's Mike Williams? He just, I don't know. It's weird. A guy I'm staying away
you
from.
said boom or bust. I'd say That's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, he's the definition of boom or bust. But moving on to this next guy, you're probably like, where is he in your rankings? Why haven't you said this name? A guy that you and I have no interest in taking at his ADP, Christian Watson. He's getting. I've seen him ranked as high as like the 4th round, and I just don't get it. I mean, guys, I know if you want to look at the second half of last year, I get it. I know all the stats. He was what, wide receiver? Was he wide receiver 1 over the second half of the season? I don't think it was that high, but he was like really, really, really good. If you picked him up on your team in the second half of the season, you were very satisfied. But Christian Watson, I see major regression coming. We've already seen reports in camp about Romeo Doubs, a guy that we love as a late round dart throw, being Jordan Love's number 1 target. But Christian Watson, he obviously has the big playability. I think the talent's there. I'm just not too sure about his target share because I think there's a lot of mouths to feed on that offense, and that's what a lot of people aren't realizing. You got Dobbs, you got Watson. They drafted Jaden Reed out of Michigan State in the 2nd round. They drafted the tight end out of Oregon State, Luke Musgrave. And then you got Jones and Dillon running the ball. And I think they might rely on the run a little bit more this season. So Watson, guys, is someone that I'm staying away from, especially in the 4th or 5th round. But if you see it, go get it. Other than that, I'm out on Watson this year.
Yeah, I'm out on Watson as well. I think he played well. He had Rodgers there. With Jordan Love, I don't think we see as efficient of a throwing game. Romeo Doubs is looking to be the number 1 option for Love there, which absolutely baffles me. I didn't know where to place Christian Watson, so I just said throw him in front of Mike Williams, which is kind of where I see him, you know. I think he has some great upside. We just have not seen Jordan Love play in a real NFL game, so it's hard to say where we see them. I think Romeo Doubs versus Christian Watson is absolute value switched. Christian Watson, you're taking at such a high capital, and you don't know what you're going to get out of him. Romeo Doubs, you're getting at such a low capital, and I think we know a little bit more of what we're going to get out of him. We're going to get targets, and we're going to get a decent volume.
He's more of a volume guy versus Watson.
Right.
You're hoping for. I mean, his yards per catch and his efficiency was just like, how do you sustain that through an entire season with a new quarterback coming in that we're so unsure of?
You guys tell me why you like Christian Watson.
No, please do. I mean, like I said, the second half of the season he was amazing. I don't know his exact finish. If you're just calculating the second half of the season, but it was really high. But yeah, I mean, please let us know in the comments why you like Christian Watson. I'd love to be more informed about it. But personally, at his ADP, we're both out.
Yeah.
So moving on, another guy who great volume last year.
I love this guy. I really do.
I don't know. He's hard to rank for me just because it's like I feel like you get really dissatisfied with him. But 147 targets. Diontae Johnson for Pittsburgh. 147 targets, only 86 receptions, so a very low catch rate. You'd think that'd have to go up, especially, I mean, I'm a big Kenny Pickett guy this year. I think he's going to be more accurate. I think Johnson's going to get more quality targets. I think the offense is going to expand. 882 yards, so you're looking at roughly 10 yards a catch, 0 touchdowns. I'm sure you're hearing this off at every fantasy site. He's going to catch a touchdown this year. Like, there's no way he doesn't. But someone you definitely like to see the efficiency rise in. And, I mean, even if he ended up with 6 touchdowns last year, that would have helped him out immensely. So, Diontae Johnson, I think where he's getting drafted is fair. His ADP 79. So, you're looking at, 7th round? I'd certainly love Diontae Johnson in the 7th round. But I think he's a guy that can definitely outperform this position we have at 32. That kind of feels wrong having him that low. So, I think he's a guy you could see definitely within the 20 to 24 range. Low end wide receiver too, I think is a fair grade for him. But I mean, I know you like him a little more than I do.
Yeah. Do you see people that are more high on Pickens than they are Diontae Johnson? And I don't exactly know why. As you said, that touchdown regression is going to progress, and he's being drafted around like Mike Evans, David Montgomery.
Yeah.
I mean, I see him as so much more valuable than that.
Yes.
if I even got him somehow, I'm just lacking at wide receiver as my wide receiver 2, I would not be that mad. I think he has an extremely high floor for where you can get him. I think he can get you at least 12 PPR points a game. I don't think that's too much of a big of an ask from Diontae Johnson.
Sixth in targets last year on a poor offense. So, I mean, it's there. Like,
he's an operator. There. He's one of those guys.
Yeah, he is.
He's really, really smooth. If you're drafting Mike Evans before Diontae Johnson or David Montgomery, guys, please rethink that. I have him at 28, so a little bit higher than we have him consensus-wise. I'm really oh yeah. As you said though, I'm very high on him.
Yeah.
And other than that, guys, I have nothing to say. Nothing but good things about Diontae Johnson.
Yeah, leave it at that.
Yep.
Tied for 33rd. Jordan Addison and Jahan Dotson, 2 guys I think both of us really like.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly like both of them far above their ADP. Jordan Addison is a guy I'm targeting in all my drafts. I want all the shares of him. I'm letting you know that right now. I will be getting Jordan Addison.
Hey guys, they call me the sniper.
I'm drafting him probably 2 or 3 rounds above where he's going. I think he's automatically slotting in as the wide receiver 2. If anyone's telling you KJ Osborne is the number 2 receiver in that offense, they're lying to you. They want Jordan Addison. KJ Osborne is the number 2 in that offense. But Jordan Addison, guys, the way he separates, again, an absolute operator. And he's a guy that he's small, but some of the catches he's making on these fades and go routes are just like he's playing, 4 inches taller than what he is. A guy that really excites me. I remember watching him at Pitt with Kenny Pickett, putting up yards, putting up touchdowns. So a guy I'm very high on. I'll be taking him. I'd love to have him as my flex receiver or as a player on my bench that I can, slot in as a flex guy. So ADP 89, we're talking top of the bottom? No, mid 8th.
Yeah,
which is crazy to me. I'm taking him above there.
Yeah, certainly as a rookie, we haven't seen him play. A little bit more risky than someone, but at the 8th, as you said, guys,
Upside.
That's exactly what you want to see towards that part of the draft. There's guys that come into the league that people are high on that don't exactly have that NFL readiness in their game. I think Jordan Addison is certainly NFL ready. His game speaks for itself.
Yes.
And other than that, guys, I think this is a great value.
That's a smash pick in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's a guy, if you're seeing him sitting there, I mean, we're talking 8th round. If he's there in the 8th round, dude, I'm taking that all day.
Right.
I'm taking eyes closed, boom. No second thoughts.
Yeah, if you take Jordan Addison this year versus Adam Thielen 2 years ago, I mean, if he could produce somewhere around where Adam Thielen was, we're going to see great value there. And I think he can produce even better than Adam Thielen was. So
that is a great point to bring up, considering what we saw Adam Thielen do last year. 107 targets last year. Jordan Addison is far more elite than Adam Thielen was last year. So, I mean, I think that's going to go directly to him and more. So obviously you guys can tell I'm very excited about Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
So tied with him, we have Jahan Dotson, who we talked about previously with McLaurin. Jahan Dotson is another guy getting drafted at ADP 90, so 1 spot behind Addison. A guy I love, on my team. I think he's that intermediate complementary to McLaurin, the deep guy. And I think him and Howell have a great connection. A guy, if you're drafting in the 9th round, or 8th round, he's going to outperform that. This is what we're talking about, guys. When we're talking about value, there's no way you draft this guy as a wide receiver 4 and he finishes as a wide receiver 4. That just doesn't make sense. I think Dotson was a guy, 7 touchdowns last year, so we know he's going to get the usage in the passing game. I think, as we said, all the points we made with McLaurin, with the offense being better, Eric Bieniemy, he knows how to use his guys. Someone I love this year, I'm definitely targeting him. Yeah,
there's guys that you draft and they're going to be better than you're drafting him at, and there's guys that you draft where you think, oh, he can't fall.
Right.
He's Mike Evans. This is a guy that will switch. He will go up. He will be drafted higher next year, so go grab him.
Yeah, I really like him. I think he was a 1st round pick last year, so he's gonna take that sophomore step. So next at 35, we have the complimentary to your guy, Diontae Johnson, who I have over him, George Pickens. This also represents a tier break for us into this next tier of guys who could be great targets, but kind of a lot of question marks on their offense. Pickens, to me, he's getting drafted 3 spots behind Diontae Johnson, so really it's a pick 'em. Diontae Johnson, I think, like you said, is your volume guy if that's what you want, a solid floor. Pickens, I think he offers a great ceiling. I think he has high upside, but I think he is going to disappoint you on certain weeks. He'll probably put up single digit stinkers, but Pickens is very, very, very talented. We see great body control. More of a deep guy, so he doesn't really run a lot of different routes, but I think he's a guy that's going to get the ball in his hands. He's going to get high quality targets in terms of down the field targets, red zone targets, doesn't drop many balls. So, I like Pickens. He was very efficient on his touches last year, finished with over 800 yards, and he only had 50-something touchdowns, I believe. Or 50-something touchdowns, right?
Only.
Yeah, but he had 50-something catches. So a guy that's highly efficient with his touches, someone I really like this year, especially at his ADP.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about Pickens personally. As I mentioned, I have him a little bit lower than Diontae Johnson. And if they're being picked side by side, I'm going Diontae Johnson all day, every day. There's people that will like the more high ceiling that will go with Pickens. Right. And yeah, we've seen a couple of highlight catches from him throughout his first year there at Pittsburgh. You could certainly include more of those within his highlight reel. And taking that second-year leap,
right.
You like to see it.
A lot of second-year guys.
The upside's there. This is actually, other than Christian Watson, this is a tier that really excites me. A lot of high value here later in your draft. So definitely look towards Diontae Johnson, Jordan Addison, Jahan Dotson, George Pickens, and that also represents a tier break for us.
So the next guy, tied for 36 with another guy we have.
These guys are like the exact same.
Yeah, I know. That's how when I was calculating the averages for us, I was like, dude, we have them ranked in the same exact spot, and they're like the same exact type of player. Michael Pittman. With Anthony Richardson coming there, I think Richardson's skill set fits Alec Pierce's skill set more as a receiver, a deep guy. Pittman, you got to think he's going to command volume. He had a very quiet season last year, but he was finished with a lot of volume. Like I said, it's just a matter of
91 receptions, almost 100
141 targets, 99 receptions, 925 yards. So that's weird for a guy like Pittman to me. I always thought of him as a guy that stretches the field, but I guess with Matt Ryan there, that really hurt him. And then Sam Ehlinger and whatever else they were doing at quarterback last year. Only 4 touchdowns. True catch rate of 82%, which is very good. High contested catch rate. I think the talent is there with Pittman. It's just unfortunate the offense he's in. So kind of like our situation with Jonathan Taylor. Kind of the same way about Pittman. So I do think Pittman is a guy that can outperform our ranking of 36. He does have a much higher ADP than the guy we have tied with him at a 77 ADP. So you're looking at top of the 7th or mid 7th, which doesn't bother me, I guess. If you're getting Pittman as a flex, I kind of like it. You got to think he's going to get volume at the end of the day.
I certainly like him and the guy we have tied with him, Courtland Sutton, as a flex option. I think they're both low floor types of guys. Me personally, I like to see that as a flex option on a week-to-week basis.
You want to know what you're getting.
Certainly want the upside guy to slot in at your flex, but you definitely, on certain weeks, if you think that your team might struggle a little bit based on matchups, slot in someone like Pittman, slot in someone like Sutton to fill in. They're going to be target guys, going to get you volume.
Last thing about Pittman, number 1 in snap share last year. If he's healthy, he's going to be on the field. Simple as that. So the more you're on the field, the more available you are, the more volume you're bound to get. So that's where I'll leave off with Pittman. But Sutton, with Jeudy's injury, Sutton is that number one guy, undeniably. And also watch out for Marvin Mims, a rookie that we both like, and it'll be a battle to see who gets him in our draft.
Yeah.
But Sutton, big-bodied guy, red zone type of guy, and I think if we see the progression with Sean Payton, Russell Wilson, Sutton's going to be a direct beneficiary of it. And at 115 ADP, which is blowing my mind, dude.
Yeah.
That's 10th round.
Uh-huh.
If you're drafting him as like your wide receiver 5, like he's gonna outperform that position on your team. So Sutton is a guy I would definitely target at that spot. Someone that I think will finally see a bounce back from when he had 1,000 yards in 2020 or 2019. But yeah, I mean, Sutton is a guy I have no problem taking.
Yeah, being drafted around guys like Gabe Davis, Devon Arcane, Charbonnet.
So you're looking at like handcuff running backs, guys that, you're taking as insurance policies versus someone that's a wide receiver 1 now, has more opportunity with an injury on the team. So I think we both love that value.
Yeah, we definitely love the value. And around here, if you're looking for security, definitely go Sutton.
Yeah.
And if you're not, move away from him. There's a lot of high upside
Gabe Davis
guys.
is a guy that's, boom or bust.
Right around that range.
Right.
And I'm actually really excited about Gabe Davis this year just because
Yeah.
he's going to be healthy. That foot's not going to be bothering him nearly as
Right.
much. Kind of going to see a new type of offense. As you said earlier, we think Josh Allen might run the ball a little bit less. Could open up Gabe Davis for some more huge games.
You want to move him up the rankings or something?
I'm just...
We'll get to him. Calm down over there.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we do have him there. So.
No, now we don't need to say anything about him.
Yeah,
But,
Gabe Davis is pretty much covered.
At 38, though, we have Brandin Cooks. Someone I don't know, man. Where do I have him? I have Cooks, so I have him at 34. I think he could highly outperform this, operating as the number 2 in that Dallas offense. 96 ADP, so you're looking at 8-9 turn. I mean, Brandin Cooks is a guy who seems to put up 1,000 yards every year. Obviously had a down year last year on the Texans. No one's going to fault him for that. That offense was horrible. But Brandin Cooks is a guy that's very talented. I think with CD, operating as the alpha in that offense, if Cooks is your number 2 guy, you're more than happy. In a real life offense, if you're drafting him lower than your flex, I'm very pleased with that. So I think his efficiency numbers are going to go back up. His depth of target average was very low last year, and I think he was used incorrectly. But I think a high-flying Dallas offense is going to, put him back into his proper place, better suited for his skills. So I'm looking forward to him. If I'm in the position to take him, I'll certainly have my shares of Brandin Cooks.
Yeah, guy that puts it in year out, as you said, someone that is a great option if you're looking that way towards the end of your drafts.
Yeah, I just think there's no way he falls below a wide receiver 3 in my mind. So that's why I really like him. And again, ADP guys, great value.
We've seen Dak support 2 wide receivers as well. Gallup has been very useful at times. Yep. I think Cooks has a little bit more talent than Gallup. Right. Yeah.
Smash that. But next we have Jason for the Seahawks. So a guy that slid down our rankings with the wrist injury. I don't know if that'll linger being a receiver. You're catching the ball, so he might be feeling that a little longer than week 1. That seems like a really speedy return to me.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening personally. But Jason, talented guy. Injury just scares me with him. But missed his entire junior season last year at Ohio State with the hamstring deal. So leaves a lot to be seen. He's one of the few rookies that I'm really not looking forward to, having on my team, especially coming in as the wide receiver 3 on that offense. I just think guys like Addison, Zay Flowers, even like Rashee Rice or Jalen Hyatt, I think they have more defined roles, a better outlook than JSN. But if JSN is healthy, talented guy, I just think at 88, I think you're going to find better options to take. Truly not that interested in him, but I think he's a guy, if you get him there, hopefully you get him as like your wide receiver 4, can watch him on your bench for a little bit and then plug and play him later in the season.
Yeah, being taken a little bit above Addison, I think you can get good value for Addison or for Yeah, I think you get good value for Addison where he's at, and I think that JSN provides a little bit more uncertainty. So, me personally with JSN, I don't know how they support two wide receivers being top guys
And then still have
have Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet.
right. And they love running the ball too. So, I mean, his upside just seems to be capped for sure. He's one of those guys that
and someone that a lot of people are super high on.
I don't see it.
I'm kind of in the middle of the road. You know, if you want to take him, I'm nothing against you, and if you don't, nothing against you as well. It's however you want to play it. I don't see his ceiling being as high as someone that I like to take later in the draft. So
you don't want to be low on a first round pick, you know?
Right.
But at the same time, I mean, I just see him as a guy who maybe later in the season, guys, if DK or Lockett happen to get hurt or something, Jason is a guy who could explode, you know, in the fantasy playoffs, end of the stretch of the season. So someone, like I said, if you can get him as your wide receiver 4, keep him on your bench for some time, see what he does. I have no issue with it.
Yeah, certainly don't go starting Jason week 1.
Yeah, bad idea.
Week 2, week 3. I think you wait out and see how he plays. You definitely don't want to be relying on him as someone that you see all over the news. And so you think, oh, I'll just wait and take him. Not a good move.
Yeah. Moving on to the next guy. We're both, I mean, I know I'm really low on him. I will have absolutely 0 shares of him. Mike Evans. Chris Godwin's the guy to get in that offense, in my opinion. I think the efficiency metrics for Mike Evans show us that he is on that decline. Now, will he put up 1,000 yards this year? Probably. Does it every year, literally. No exaggeration there. But his separation was not good. Nothing excites me about him. Now, Baker could play to his strengths. Baker loves to throw the deep ball. But someone at a 78 ADP, I'm looking for younger guys, fresh legs, guys that have a more explosive offense. So I'm even more comfortable with taking like Brandin Cooks a little later in the draft. I think Cooks has far more upside than Mike Evans does. So it's value like that, guys, that you have to weigh out personally how you feel. We like to look for, like I said, explosive offenses, slightly younger guys, more defined roles. I'm out on Mike Evans.
Yeah, I'm out on him as well. I took him in the second round last year and was massively disappointed. Yeah. Ended as the wide receiver 17, so he's been productive throughout his career, guys. We know that Mike Evans could end in that low-end wide receiver 2 range again, maybe even high-end wide receiver 3. But where we see him, I think it's even lower. I think he's a low-end wide receiver 3. Just another year on his body.
I don't see it.
Yeah, Baker doesn't excite me by any means.
Yeah.
That Tampa offense, if it's not Rashad White or Chris Godwin, I'm probably staying away.
Yeah, well put. I 100% agree. Moving on, tied for 41st, we got 2 rookie receivers, starting with Quentin Johnston. I love Quentin Johnston. He was a guy that was ranked really high coming into like the college playoffs. Was projected top 10 pick, slid a little bit. I don't know if that was because of combine or what, but his measurables are great. Obviously, he has a little bit of a hands issue, but in preseason has looked very explosive, and camp has looked explosive. I think he's a guy who starts out with. I know it may sound like we're kind of contradicting ourselves because Johnston's going to come in as the wide receiver 3, just like JSN is. But I think Johnston is a guy. I think that Chargers offense is much more explosive. I think that we can be far more sure of versus the Seattle offense. Johnston is a guy who at 124 ADP, 10-11, I think he's going to go before that in our draft. Mm-hmm. But Johnston is a guy who I'm certainly looking at. Again, we mentioned with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, the injury history. So I think Johnston is a guy I would love to have on my bench. Again, a guy who can come on later in the season, be playing with confidence. Johnston is a guy that I will be having many shares of.
Yeah, if you can grab him and even reach for him a little bit, I have no problem with that. When you're in the spot where you're taking Quentin Johnston, you're really just looking for high upside. This guy is certainly a guy with that exact profile. Has a great downfield presence. Can get that jump ball. Hands a little bit questionable, but that's something that I think Justin Herbert can fix just by being such a baller. I love Johnston. where he's being taken,
Yeah.
I'll probably reach for him a little bit and grab him before you can. And yeah, guys, like people that are 10 to 15 spots below where you're taking him at the end of drafts, or even 20, if he's your guy and you really see some upside in him, just go for him. Like, there's no reason to look solely on ADP towards the end of the draft, because that stuff is all very questionable, and it's all you're looking for is upside there. You're not going to be starting these guys week 1. What you're looking for is come week 10 to week 13 to really step up their game. And if that happens, guys, you're going to have people wanting him in the trades. You can get some good value there, or you can just play him. I really like Johnston as one of those guys. Yeah. You really like to see Johnston late in the draft.
Yeah.
I will be reaching probably for Johnston.
I mean, yeah, absolutely, dude. That point made my night. We get into right here. Leave him without the last 7, and I'd be fine, dude. No, we won't do that to you guys. But yeah, man, I think you hit it on the head. Please take that home with you into your drafts. Once you get into the 8th round, really the 8th round or lower, in my opinion, start taking your guys. It's really just like rankings at that point are just off the board for me. But Johnson is a guy who his profile is very interesting. Big-bodied guy, like you said, downfield, but also amazing like run after the catch on short. I mean, I don't know if you watched the TCU Michigan game last year. Took a 4-yard curl pass for a 60-70-yard touchdown. So he just has a great playmaking ability.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on, tied with him, another rookie, Zay Flowers. I'm excited about him. He's getting taken slightly about a round ahead of Johnston, so it's really a pick 'em. I like Johnston a little more personally, but Zay Flowers, I think, can take over that number 1 role in that Ravens offense. And if you watch our quarterback rankings video, guys, Lamar's my number 2 quarterback. So I think that offense is going to be much better with Todd Monken. Yeah. Todd Monken at the OC spot. I think this is going to be Lamar's best passing year. Zay Flowers, another first-round guy. So I'm looking for him to establish himself with Bateman's injury questions. OBJ's older. I think Zay Flowers is a great pick. Another guy that if you like him, take him in the 9th, take him in the 10th, take him where you like him. I think he can contribute arguably from day 1.
Yeah, he's a guy that we like to take later in the draft. High upside guy. Going to be an explosive offense if Lamar stays healthy. No reason to look past him.
Right.
I definitely consider him in your draft if he's there towards your later rounds.
Very crafty, very fast guy.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him paired with Lamar.
Yeah.
Moving on, number 43. I've been thinking more about this guy, and I think you got him in your best ball draft, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, guys, Gabe Davis last year. I know he broke your heart last year. You got him in what, the 5th round? Was it? You drafted him?
Yeah, I think so.
5th round.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely did not perform to that draft position. But guys, at 95 ADP, you're looking at the bottom of the 8th.
Yeah.
If you're taking Gabe Davis as your wide receiver 4, you got a guy on a bye week, you slide in Gabe Davis, he could give you 30 points, no problem. We saw him with, a 99-yard touchdown last year, 98, something like that, against the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
He's an explosion waiting to happen. If he can progress from what we saw last year, that'd be very exciting. And I think you'd be very pleased if that happens and you drafted him at 95. I mean, I'd love to have him on my team.
Yeah, last year I drafted him as like a flex type of guy, and he's someone that this year I'm much more confident taking. Although I did take him last year, I think it's better strategically to take him this year if you were to go back in time and I could consider the 2. Because he's going to be healthier, 1. 2, he's going so late that you can literally take him and sit him on your bench. Like, he doesn't have to start week 1 for you. And you can just kind of see if he's a little bit more consistent or not throughout the first couple of weeks. How much targets he's getting. He's still the number 2 guy in that offense. So I really like Gabe Davis, healthy, high-flying Bills offense. Can break a 99-yard touchdown in the blink of an eye. Had 3 or 4 touchdowns against the Chiefs in that AFC Championship game. Just a great talent.
Yeah.
Great downfield threat. I love him this year. I will be looking to Gabe Davis as another guy late in rounds to grab.
Yeah, I'll end it off with Gabe Davis. 836 yards on only 48 receptions. So like we said, guys, if you're looking for a boomer in the late rounds as a wide receiver 4 or so, Gabe Davis is the guy to pick. I mean, I'd be very pleased with that.
Yeah.
But moving to our next guy, number 44, a guy that consensus has him ranked all the way down at 57 with a 147 ADP. Romeo Doubs, guys. We mentioned him earlier. All the reports out of the Packers training camp is that he's Jordan Love's guy. You and I both liked him last year. Unfortunately, got injured. But I think he's a guy that's much more friendly to a young quarterback, inexperienced guy, not looking to always stretch the field, can operate in that underneath intermediate range. Doubs is a guy that I really like. Again, 147. So 13th round, top of the 13th, bottom of the 12th. Dart throw that Carter and I both love. Doubs is a guy that I think he could push 100 targets in this offense. I think he's going to be the high volume guy. We stated that earlier. Guys, Doubs is a guy that both of us will be competing for him again. I think he's a no-brainer if you can take him that late. Again, guys, late round picks are all about value. If you can get a number 1 in an offense or a number 2 guy who's going to get volume, why not take that over a backup running back who's you have no idea what he's playing for. So Romeo Doubs is a guy I love at ADP. We'll certainly take him probably a round or 2 above that. I think he can definitely outperform 44 where we have him ranked, and certainly 57 where he's ranked by experts.
Yeah, guys, this is someone that's very rare to see in drafts because he has a assured spot as the wide receiver, as the pseudo wide receiver 1. We're yet to see who really steps up in that role, but you're not going to find that very often.
Right.
A lot of times you're just going to draft absolute dart throws, and we love those high-end dart throws, but this is a guy that's actually more secure and could be slotted in if you get an early season injury very quickly because we know that target's going to be there, that volume will be there.
Last thing I'll say about Doubs is 57 guys is where he's ranked. I was doing an NFL fantasy mock draft like on NFL.com. Just scrolling through the receivers, seeing who was at ranked really low. Romeo Doubs is the overall 311th player.
Absolutely absurd.
And then Darnell Mooney's also, I think, 310. So those two guys are both guys that we like as late round, dart throws that can certainly outperform, have shown that they can be ballers in this league. And I think, like you said, if you have an early injury, I have no problem slotting either of those two guys in. But Doubs, guys, go get him. You'll be happy in your league. Everyone else will be missing out. Moving to 45, a guy that's dealt with a lot of injuries early in his career. This is his second year. Treylon Burks for the Titans. Already dealing with an injury now. I loved him coming out of Arkansas. A very talented receiver. Can play a lot of different roles. Bigger guy. Would love to see him paired on that offense with Hopkins now. I think that would just make their offense that much better with a healthy Tannehill. Derrick Henry, like we've already stated, we're high on Derrick Henry this year. ADP at 102. Personally, I wouldn't have an issue with taking him in the 9th round. I think if he does play, if he does get healthy, he does outperform our ranking of 45. So again, he's another guy that I think has great value as a wide receiver 4 or 5. And we saw him last year when he did play. He garnered a lot of targets. So a guy that I think in a good running offense, I think he can give you some value there.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Yeah.
I don't really have much to say about Treylon Burks. I do have a little bit more to say about the outlook of that team. I think it's better than it was last year.
I think we're both higher on Tennessee than most people are. I mean, they're projected to be one of the worst teams, and I think both of us know that Mike Vrabel's never going to let his team be one of the worst teams.
Dude, I'm a huge Vrabel fan.
Yeah.
He might actually be my number 1 coach in this league.
I have no issue with
I
it.
really like Vrabel. I think that he coaches well. They are always contesting when healthy.
I remember Malik Willis had to step in his first game against Kansas City. And it was competitive for like the first half. They all like, I don't know, man. They're like a boxer that just never goes away, you know?
Right.
Regardless of who they're facing. So I love a Mike Vrabel led team. But getting back to Traylon Burks, wrapping up with him, I just think at 102, it's fair value. Not a guy I would have huge expectations for, but a guy I would like to have on my bench just to see what he does.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you take this next guy at 46.
Yeah, so next we have Elijah Moore, and there's good reports between him and Deshaun Watson. They're getting behind-the-scenes work in, and, you know, you love to see that. They're putting in the effort to be good. Deshaun Watson is a complete wild card for me. I think his ceiling is so high, and his floor is so low that Elijah Moore is going to rise or fall with Deshaun Watson. I don't think that Deshaun Watson has a bad season and you see Elijah Moore be productive, whereas with Amari Cooper, I think that's very possible. As the wide receiver 2 in that offense, I like him late, though. You know, I think, as I said, I have a lot of hope in this Browns offense this year. I think they're more high-powered than they've been in a very long time. And, yeah, if their defense can put it together, give them some good field position, Elijah Moore could certainly capitalize on that.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think the talent's certainly there. I think he's a great complementary to Cooper. Another guy, him and Cooper are both route running magicians. I think Elijah Moore, I think you covered it perfectly. If that offense can be what we expect it to be, I think Elijah Moore can really break out at 46. Like, again, that's a guy that can definitely outperform that. A 112 ADP, guys, so you're looking at a 10th round draftee, so someone that is low investment, high possible return. So this is why personally I like drafting running backs early. I like to get 3 out of the first 5 rounds is what I like to target. Then you have that covered, and you can draft guys like this late. You know, you can get your 4th running back in the 7-8 range, and then just take flyers on receivers. Because, guys, we see 3 wide receiver sets are at an all-time high in the NFL, and it's only going to continue to get higher. So the more receivers on the field, the more opportunity there is. So I like to fill my bench with receivers versus trying to get the best handcuffs, even though that is a very valuable strategy. I just see guys like Elijah Moore, even Gabe Davis that we talked about earlier, providing a lot of high upside, someone that can fill in at flex at times, or if someone gets injured, you can be confident slotting in.
Yeah. Going into this year, I was thinking wide receiver. That's all I'm going for. The more I look at it, the more I draft. I really like taking those running backs early, getting that security, as you said, and then going for those high-end wide receiver upsides later on in the draft. You see a couple of them break out every year. And I think that this year especially, there's a bunch that are just super exciting that you can get at such low draft capital that, you know, there's also a lot of secure running backs. Like, there's a thing with running back, the high-end guys give you a lot of security. So if you're someone that likes to play with different builds, I really like running backs early because that allows you to go for tight ends, for quarterbacks, and then you can shoot for some of these guys and even slot in people like Romeo Doubs at your slot if it really comes to it. Like, I'm really starting to warm up to the running back option. Probably something I'll end up doing in my more serious league.
Who'd you learn that from?
I mean, that's always been a strategy. We didn't invent it, but I've been drafting more though as well, from what, you know, talking to you and drafting more and looking at the outlook this year, it's starting to make more sense. I mean, I've gotten some insane teams. So yeah, let's move on.
Hopefully you guys are watching all the way through, because these are gems right here.
Yeah, soak this up, guys. Right, this is just fantasy knowledge that's been acquired over years. Keep going.
Yeah, so moving to 47, Rashad Bateman. Definitely an interesting guy. First round pick out of Minnesota in 2021. Unfortunately, has been plagued by injuries, but dude, last year, his first, I believe it was like the first 4 games he played full, he was uber efficient.
Yeah.
I mean, deep touchdowns. Yardage, it was looking really good there. Now getting drafted at 138, so you're looking at a 12th round pick. Another guy you take a flyer on. It's a bit of an ambiguous wide receiver room there in Baltimore. You got OBJ, you got Zay Flowers, the rookie, another first rounder. So, I mean, and OBJ was a first rounder too, so you got 3 first rounders. Obviously, they didn't draft OBJ, but a lot of talent there. So maybe again, I think I said everything was Zay Flowers. This applies here to Bateman. If Bateman's healthy, I think this is a great value pick. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I got for him.
Yeah, Bateman excites me a lot this year. Talking to some Ravens fans, they're very excited about having him for a full season as well. I mean, really no reason not to shoot for him later in your drafts. Very high upside.
I mean, we saw him being an electric player last year. That's what you look for in these rounds.
Yeah. If the injury's not holding him back, I think he could end as a wide receiver too, honestly. I think that he's got that upside. And getting value like that super late like this.
Right. That's what you want.
You go for him.
All right. Ending us off, my guy.
Last guy, Nico Collins.
You ruined it. You ruined it. We're cutting that out. No. Yeah, guys, Carter said it. Nico Collins, guys. I've had him the last 2 years. I love the guy. I think he's a great talent. His contested catch ability is off the charts. Gets a lot of air yards, so he seems to always average in the 15 to 20 yards per catch range. And a guy that I think is going to operate as that number 1 alpha receiver in the Texans offense, which I know is not saying much, but when you can get the number 1 guy in an offense, this late in 167, so you can get him whatever you want really in your draft, but he's a guy that I love to take as a late dart throw. I mean, why not? I just he's gonna progress. He's gonna be better. You can't be worse than he was with Davis Mills, and they were running a 2-quarter. Houston hurts my brain, dude. But Nico Collins, guys, I think is a great smash at the end of your draft. I think he's a guy you're gonna draft as your wide receiver 6 or 7. And I think he can return great value for you, fill in with your flex every now and then if you need him, if he has a good matchup. Yeah.
Yeah, he's contesting versus Robert Woods and Noah Brown, 2 guys that don't excite me. Noah Brown did have a couple games last year that showed he could be a viable option, but I think that Nico Collins really steps up. 10 games played last year and 8 red zone targets, 6 of those as end zone targets. I mean, that's just a stat that blows my mind. That's a target in the end zone once every 2 games, even more than that. And if he converts on half of those guys, you're seeing a really, really, really great value pick towards the end of your draft, really in the last rounds.
He's one of those guys, he's going to see high value targets. Like you just said, end zone, red zone, deep balls. So a guy that can be efficient with even a limited offense like that in Houston. But that's our 48 guys. So
48 wide receivers, guys.
Man. A lot of information to unpack there. We will have timestamps for you in the video. But you'll only hear that if you're making it this far. So I guess that's not much value to you. But yeah, or if you're using them. So hopefully you're using them and listening to me say this right now. But 48 wide receivers for you guys. Use this information when you're drafting. Know your draft board. Value. Go for it, guys. Crush your draft.
Right. So we have now put out to you guys 24 quarterbacks, 36 running backs, 12 tight ends plus 4 sleeper picks, and
48.
now 48 wide receivers.
Heck
Not
yeah.
only that, very soon, possibly tomorrow, we will be doing a live mock draft, or we might record it. It's still to be determined.
It's up in the air.
But we will be doing a mock draft very soon. Probably have money on the line. It's going to be exciting. We're going to get a balling team that's going to win us a lot of money towards the end of the year.
Are we going to do a best ball?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes. So we might even enter 2 of those teams. It's going to be fun. I really want you guys to watch that video because we're going to be applying everything that we've been talking about over these last couple of videos. We're going to have a ball doing it, and we want you guys to have a ball watching it. So we'll try to make it as entertaining as possible, try to give you as much knowledge as possible.
Tips.
On top of that, we're going to be recording our very own main live draft,
which is October. Or not October. I hope we're not drafting in October.
The 6th.
Yeah, the 6th now. So the day before the Kansas City Detroit game. We'll be drafting then September 6th. I'm obviously this is our main draft, so very exciting. Love to bring you guys that content. Show you, like Carter said, show you what we do when everything really matters.
Yeah, when the granite hits the paved road.
Yeah, man.
So yeah. Thank you guys for watching.
Yeah, hope you enjoy this. Hope you guys like all the other videos too. Again, let us know anything we can improve on, any trade recommendations. And if you're splitting hairs between two guys, let us know. We'll do our best to answer.
Yep, as well. Put that in the Discord player comparisons chat. We'd love to see you guys there. We'd love to see you all interact as a big group, as fantasy football friends. And as a very last note, guys, please tell me why you like Christian Watson. I do not understand it. I don't think I will until the season's over, and I've been proven absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
But just please tell me why, because we've talked about it. Romeo Dobbs is the way to go. Thank you guys so much for watching today. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed our content. Also, comment down in the comment section below if you have any questions about fantasy or about anything we just said. We will happily respond to any of those. We have a Discord chat as well if you'd like to connect. We're on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter if you want to follow us there for some more content. We will be posting on YouTube a bunch, and a lot of that's going to go onto those types of socials. So yeah, share with your fantasy football friends. Join the community, and let's grow this thing. Let's make it big. I hope you have a great day, and thank you again for watching.